So today I want to talk to you guys about something that is something I noticed when I started getting into 4x4. I started going out on trails with guys, and I started noticing this weird phenomenon that we would go out on trails and we would find guys stuck in the middle of nowhere, or the vehicle won't start, or there's something broken in the vehicle, and these guys never had any tools. And for me, that was always mind-boggling. Even before I was into 4x4, when I was into race cars and all that, you always had a bit of spanners with you, a bit of tools. And I think sometimes we take for granted the places that we are, that when you phone a friend with his normal BMW or his Audi, he's not going to be able to come up to you. So you need to make sure, like with our vehicles that are self-sufficient when it comes to water and electricity and solar, in the same breath, you need to make sure that you're equipped, that if something happens out there, you can at least get the van running. And there's a few basic things. I mean, it's not like you're gonna have to carry this whole massive Godot toolbox with you. I mean, if you took an old laptop bag or an old school bag from your kids and you filled it with a few basic tools, and I mean, I've got a little list that I've made on my phone, and I'm actually gonna put the list on the description of the video. But I mean, it's very simple things. It's some spanners. You know, the common sizes are like a 10, a 13, a 15, a 17, a 19, 21, 24. If you don't have spanners, even a shifting spanner will help. A shifter is like we like to call it in South Africa. Then some sockets. You need to have sockets with you because there are places that it's just too difficult to use a spanner. And then try to match your power bar and your sockets, so that if it's in a situation where you really need to plow something loose, the power bar can then attach to the sockets. Cable ties. Cable ties. Anybody that's an outdoor person or a home DIY person will tell you that cable ties is your number one lifesaver. Even drywall screws. Something as simple as that. When you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't have a cable tie or drywall screw, you'll kill yourself. You'll basically like, oh, it's such a simple idea. Then we've got stuff like insulation tape. Insulation tape is something you need to have in your vehicle, because if there's an open wire, an exposed wire, there's burnt wires while you're out on the trip, you need to make sure that you can quickly get it going, get to the nearest center and fix it or anything. Then we've got hose clamps. So that, again, that is integral to any vehicle, because any vehicle works on the principle of hose clamps. You've got coolant in your vehicles, you've got fuel lines, you need hose clamps. You can go, I normally have the big, this one, this size, the medium one, and the really small one. Try to buy the ones that are not got the grooves only halfway through. Try and buy ones that's got the groove right the way around, so that way you can take a big hose clamp and you can compress it even into a small hose clamp. Those are useful things to have, always, always, always. I mean, again, when you're stuck without a hose clamp, something as simple as that, and a cable tie can double as a hose clamp, temporary. You can pull it really tight, use 2 cable ties, and it can get you there. I mean, in some of the videos that I'm going to be playing during this, you'll see how simple MacGyvers and simple fixes can get you out of a sticky situation to just get you down the trail. You can park the vehicle, the insurance can come fetch it, or your buddies can come fetch it, but just to get you down the trail. Screwdrivers. Guys, screwdrivers. You need to have a Star or a Phillips. You need to have a small flat and a really big flat. That is also very important. Connector blocks, you know, or block strip connectors or block connectors, whatever you want to call it, to join 2 wires together. If a wire burns out in the back of your van and you've got the insulation there, but you want a really sound joint. Ratchet straps. I want to talk about ratchet straps. We have fixed so many vehicles on the trails with ratchet straps, by pulling in a Tyre end to hold it in place, by holding a spring in the back of a vehicle in place to be able to get these vehicles again to the bottom of the trail. I'm not necessarily saying that you're going to drive home with the vehicle, but you're able to get the vehicle into safety. Besides that, with pliers, side cutters. So someone actually taught me, and if I walk to this vehicle now, someone actually told me a while ago, it was a friend of mine that's vehicle actually set a light, and it just came back from a big dealership, is to always keep a side cutters in your driver's door. And the reason behind this is, if you're driving and suddenly you see smoke, and there's smoke coming at the back by your fridge and there's wires burning, he said to me, you get out of the vehicle, you run to your battery and you cut every single wire. You can sit for the next 8 hours on the side of the road fixing that wires, but you'd rather that than burning the vehicle out. And then again, next thing, just as important as that, fire extinguisher. So I've got my fire extinguisher mounted at my seat, at my floor well. So if I'm driving, I just basically have to do this. Because if you've got it at the back of the vehicle and it's burning at the back of the vehicle, you can't get to it. In that moment, you don't have time to run to the back of the vehicle. You want to grab the fire extinguisher and get out of the vehicle. It needs to be on hand. So we keep one at the back also, because that is life-saving. I mean, I had that experience with my burning trailer. Then, wire. a bit of hanger wire that you can bend to hold something in place, and then also some soft wire, some electrical wire that you maybe need to just connect the fan wire that's bent over here and you just need the fan running, or you need something running in the vehicle. Fuses. So whatever fuses your vehicle takes, you go to the shops and you'll find this placard that's got 210s, 215s, 220s, 25s. Keep that in your vehicle, because a blown fuse, you're driving home at night, you turn your trailer, you're driving late, even if you don't have a trailer, and your brake lights go, or your park lights go, or your indicators go. Those things are safety requirements. You need to have your vehicle visible when you're on the road. So you never know. You know, sometimes we would go through mud or really deep water, and the water would go in the back of my lights on the old bumper, and they would pop my fuse. And driving home, I never had brake lights, and guys would like say, "Gosh, you don't have brake lights." Luckily, I always had spare fuses to just pull over, put it in. You can always sort the water out when you get it home. A knife, if it's a Stanley knife or if it's a Leatherman, any form of a knife, and then a hacksaw blade. Even if you take a hacksaw blade home and you break it in half, just to be able to cut a rubber hose, you know, that you can really get that grit on cutting. Tire plugs. Tire plugs. You can't leave home without tire plugs and spare valve inners, because sometimes we have these quick deflates, or you guys have this idea of turning out the valve to deflate, which is nothing wrong with it, but bang, 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 the valve flies. And then you're sitting without the valve, and you have to take your spare wheel valve, which means your spare wheel's now a dud. So you go to any tire shop and you hand them a 50 rand, and they'll give you a handful of valves in a bank bag. You keep it in the back of your van, and it's a game-changing thing to have that in your vehicle. Then a small wire brush, because sometimes you get grease and that going onto places that you don't need, and you need to clean to get a really proper joint or something. The wire brush helps. Even when you get a DB and you need to clean your rim, a wire brush helps with getting at the grit there so that you can reseal and not sit with a slow puncture driving home. And then if you're doing a long trip, you need to look at carrying stuff like brake fluid, coolant, auto gearbox fluid if you have an automatic, power steering fluid, because that's things that you need on your vehicle. You're driving a long trip, you don't want to drive without power steering, you don't want to drive without brakes. Cloth, you always want to wipe your hands, or you always want to wipe something on the vehicle that's full of something. A cloth is so important. You go in the mud, there's mud everywhere, you need to wipe it off. And then a little water. You won't believe, we always drive with a 5-liter water in the van. If you're running low on water in your vehicle, if you need to wash off something, if you've been working on grease and you still need to drive, water. Always have water with you. And then the last thing that I also want to talk about is we jack up our vehicles in all forms of terrain. The best thing you can ever have in your van is a small block of wood, just about this size, as a base plate to put your jack on. Because if you put a jack in the sand, the jack's going to sink. The base plate also helps elevate the jack so that you're not exerting the jack to its fullest point. And also it helps with creating a level platform to disperse the weight of where the jack is jacking up, so that it's not everything concentrated onto the small little area of a bottle jack. And try to get yourself a decent 5-ton bottle jack to lift your vehicle up. Minimum, I'd say a 5-ton. Because these vehicles are heavy. And if you go, the vehicle's 3-ton, you buy a 3-ton, the jack is on its max. You want to know that this jack is not on its max. So for me, it's simple things like that you learn as you're on the trails. You know, like a friend of mine, Yasin, he's a firm believer, and I've started doing it as second nature. Is when you jack the vehicle up and you're working on it, you take the wheel off, you take the wheel, you put it under the vehicle close to the jack. So if the jack fails, the vehicle falls on the wheel and not on the floor. So for me, you know, we as overlanders and outdoor people, and whether you're into 4x4ing or not, whether even going with your family in a normal car on a road trip to Neisner or wherever, even Caledon, you need to have a bit of basic tools. Anything can happen on the road. You can even bump into someone that needs your help. And it's like I said before, you bump into so many guys that are on these trails out, and you come to this guy and it's him with 4 friends, and they're like, hey, we just need a pliers. And then you stand there and you think to yourself, like, just the pliers. I mean, you guys are standing here for 4 hours. You could have been on the road if you had a pliers. But people tend to forget, and when you pack this bag, so my advice and what I've done is I go to the cash crusaders and the thrift stores and that, and I'll buy an old, normally have the spanners and an elastic band, throw it in the vehicle, don't take things from home. Buy as you can, as time goes by, little stuff, fill the bag, and it's, you know, my boot is full, so I've got way more stuff than I listed. But pack it, leave it, do not take it out the vehicle. If you need it at the gate, the spanner, go to your garage and go fit your spanner. Don't take a spanner out the vehicle, because Murphy's Law, when you're stuck there, you're going to be like, you know, I took that spanner out and I fixed the gate and I never put it back in the van. So guys, it's just a bit of safety. It's things happen all the time, and for me, this is just knowledge that I always say I wish I knew in the beginning. I know now. And if we all help each other in this community, we're all going to go so much further. So until we see you on the next trip, be safe out there and have fun. And I'm about to go explore this area. I'm at Zikufle Nature Reserve. It's like a prize spot. So cheers.